But to be here in the service of one of your sons right here is really extraordinary. I remember John Barros 21 years ago when I came here, when Gus Newport asked me to come here and be a part of the celebration of the Dudley Street Initiative. And at that particular point, I saw something unique. It reminded me of all the ways in which people came together across ethnicity, across culture, across so many different lines, and came together to celebrate themselves and their achievement. That's what I saw there. And I've been talking about the Dudley Street Initiative, whether reading the work of Holly Scholar, many of us over the last 21 years. And to come here to have, on behalf of our next mayor, the next mayor of Boston, John Barros, who is not only the son of this community right here, but he's all of our sons. He belongs to all of us. Wherever we see young activists, young men and women taking leadership, taking ownership, and becoming the architects of the new changes that are happening in the country. Cities need John Barros. They need them. They need them everywhere. Cities are challenged right now. They were challenged 42 years ago when I worked in city government. They're challenged even more now. As we look at the issues around education, if we look at the issues around deindustrialization, we look at the issues around the decimation of unions and good paying living wage jobs, we look at all those, and we need people to talk about them. We need people to engage in the questions about them. We need people who are going to ask the right questions so we get the right answers. And John Barros is going to, and has been, all of his life, asking the right questions. And we need him, and it's such a pleasure to come here. The next mayor of Boston, John Barros.
Danny represents a movement all around the country. A movement that we find ourselves in. Gus Newport is no stranger to Boston. Let's hear it for Gus Newport, the former executive director of the Dudley Street Initiative. Quickly about Gus. Gus came and said, John, don't worry about it. When I was first running for mayor of Berkeley, the first poll that came out didn't even have me at 1%. I said, man, Gus, then we must be running the same race. He said I raised about $38,000 for the whole thing. $38,000. But he said, I had an army behind me. We hit the streets. We hit doors. We talked to voters. We published newspapers. And we changed the discourse in Boston. And then we won and changed the city. Well, they changed the discourse in Berkeley. We changed the discourse in Boston. We changed the discourse in Boston. And so it's important then that I stand here at a celebration that brings activism and art together, that brings people together from all parts of the city, that is a diverse crowd, both in ethnicity and race, but also in age, in geography. Different people from different parts of the city, looking at one another and saying, this is Boston. This is Boston. And we should celebrate this all the time. A cross-cultural coalition of people all around the city who believe in a Boston that can be more unifying. A Boston, in fact, that can sing one song of Boston Strong. One Boston. Because we have a Boston that, in fact, cannot sing that song together. We still have a Boston with 80% of the violent crimes happen in 3 neighborhoods. A Boston where we can predetermine the likelihood of people having health issues based on where they live in, based on zip codes. A Boston with the infant mortality rate is a crisis in certain communities, particularly some communities of color. A Boston where we still have the best universities and colleges in the country, but with a persistent achievement gap. A Boston that can be better. A Boston that is a promise to the world for what we can do. We will, in fact, starting on September 24th, move this city towards closer to eliminating the achievement gap. We will, starting September 24th, move this city closer to housing everyone, the homeless, everyone. We will, starting on September 24th, move this city to a place where everyone is prospering from the growth of this city, not just a few. We will unify the city and make Boston work for everyone. Because if Boston doesn't work for everyone, it doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't work for anyone. We had 8 shootings this weekend. 8 shootings. More than that? Too many shootings this weekend. And so as Boston, we stand here concerned for those who are involved, both perpetrators or victims. We stand here and we say we cannot tolerate that kind of violence in our city, anywhere. And then we mobilize tomorrow to make sure that this city is safer for everyone. But the way we make Boston safer for everyone is by making sure that every neighborhood and every family thrives. It's by making sure that every neighborhood and every family is healthy. By making sure that everyone has an opportunity to participate, that our young ones have the jobs they need, the educational opportunities they need. By investing in our schools, in jobs, in connecting people to those opportunities. It is amazing the kind of opportunities we have in our city. Where one part of the city that I go to says that they can't find employers to fill 800 to 1,000 jobs in the Longwood medical area. And in another part of the city I go to, they say they can't find the jobs. With the highest unemployment in Boston. We've got to connect Boston, folks, because this is not a pipe dream. This is a city who has all of the assets to make it work. This is the city that's got to believe in itself, but understand that the way we get the best out of ourselves is to make sure that our brothers and sisters are with us and strong, because our futures are intrinsically linked. Boston will thrive not because Washington, D.C. is going to save us. Boston will thrive not because the state's going to do something magical. Boston will thrive because we are going to come together and leverage a dormant arts economy. Where right now it's producing $1 billion worth of revenues, hiring 10,000 people throughout the city, but we haven't even begun to invest in it. Leverage because we are going to be the leaders in helping to create adaptive technology and while addressing our footprint to fight climate change. To make sure that we are showing the world that we can lead probably the biggest issue facing humanity. We will be the city that will create the new technologies that put our young folks to work. How many young people are aspiring to stay in Boston after you graduate from college? Well, we got to work on your behalf because affordable housing is a problem. When we first started to work at Dudley Street, we said we can't improve this neighborhood and displace the people who work here, who live here. We've got to develop our neighborhoods for the people who actually live there today. That means affordable housing is critical, but not just affordable housing to allow people to enter the housing market and then exit with the subsidies, but affordable housing that creates permanent stock of affordable housing so everybody can engage and enjoy in the benefits of our neighborhoods as we develop them. Now that's serious for Boston, where everybody can participate. But we know our education system starts with engaging our parents in helping to support our children from birth to 5. Where every dollar spent is saving $17 in intervention. We know that most of our children from our poor communities of color are walking into kindergarten with 4,000 to 6,000 word gaps. We know if we're going to do anything about our system, it starts early. It starts with our 0 to 5s, and then it moves through K to 12 in a way where we're investing in schools. We're investing in teaching. We're investing by giving schools the kind of resources and autonomies they need to make the decisions to teach their student body, because we've seen it work. We have turned around some of the worst performing schools in our city. We have, though, in BPS, some of the best performing schools in our state. Doing yeoman's work, teaching the hardest to teach. And we need to start with BPS in making sure that we are celebrating the performance of our Boston Public Schools, the performance of our Boston Public School teachers. And that we can work with others who are innovating in the charter community. And we should be able to support those who are providing quality education for our children. But we've got to move ourselves away from this toxic conversation about one or the other and move to a system that is far different than what we have today, that is one built around an equity frame, where everybody is engaged, where everybody is getting the most of what they need from our system. Because I can't stand here and tell you that we're not going to expand some seats until we get it right, because we've got children that are losing their lives while we try to figure out our public school system. It is the most complex question, but the most important question for us to solve today. The most important civil right question of our day is education. And making sure that we're moving this city towards the right education system and being a leader around the country. And Boston can do that. Boston. And let me just give a quick shout out, because none of the field organizers are here today. None of the folks who work on our campaign are here today, the field organizers. Where are they, folks? We know where they are. What are they doing right now? Knocking on doors. So we got a bunch of volunteers and a bunch of folks who are still out in the neighborhood doing the work. And so my last plea to you is that when we leave this party, that we don't leave having thought that we won anything. We haven't won anything yet. When we leave this party, we leave with more energy to go into GOTV, getting out the vote, and making sure that we are bringing the best of what we have for this last 10 days. So that we can move to turn the energy into votes. So that we can move to turning this city into a more inclusive city. So we can move to turn this city into more transparent city. A city that's more engaging. A city where we're all participating. We've got 9 days to do it. 9 days to do it. And I'm feeling good about the momentum. I'm feeling good about the speed. I'm feeling good as I talk to people all over the city. I'm feeling good, and people are feeling good about what we stand for. Because we stand for a united Boston. We stand for a Boston that believes in the people. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And if I can be that humble servant, if I can be that humble leader in the best of a servant leadership model, and serve you, and serve Boston, then I would humbly accept your support and your vote on September 24th as we make Boston a city that works for everyone. Thank you very much for being here.